Hello, my name is John Adams. I'm a lifelong toy, comic, and cartoon fan. Born in January of 1973, I feel fortunate to have lived alongside many of the greatest franchises. Star Wars, the Transformers, G.I. Joe, He-Man, Mask, Dino Riders, the Centurions, the Inhumanoids, Thundercats, Silverhawks, Air Raiders, Sectars, and of course Marvel and DC. I might not have named them all, but if you can name it, I've probably collected it. My passion for nostalgia has led me to fellow collectors from all over the world, and thanks to our common love for these bits of paper and plastic, some amazing friendships have spawned. During this COVID crisis, I decided to sit down with some of these friends that I've met to chat about one of the franchises we love. What you are about to watch is one of what I hope will become a series of documentary films about the fans and with the fans. The first one is on the Transformers. I sat down with many of my friends who've become authors, comic artists, YouTubers, podcasters, just fellow toy collectors, and a lifelong friend to chat and reminisce about these favorite robots in disguise. I wanted to hear the stories and see what brings people from all walks of life to collect and love these toys from our childhood. So sit back, relax, get some popcorn and soda. I hope you enjoy this trip down memory lane with Transformers, a chat with the fans. The Generation 1 Transformers, an amazing cartoon, a brilliant comic book, and toys that were truly unlike anything we've ever seen before. The Transformers really are more than meets the eye.
Transformers were toys that were unlike anything I had ever seen at the time.
Cool robots, isn't it? So
more than meets the eye, giant transforming robots. Awesome toys that I always wanted as a kid, but couldn't actually get.
The first thing for Transformers that comes to mind is the quality of toys.
Transformers were always, for me, the coolest toys.
When you think of Transformers, the first thing that comes to my mind is like the adaptability. It's not just a figure.
They had die-cast parts and things like that just once you felt the toy in your hand, it almost didn't seem like a toy. It was a high-end collectible for back in the 80s, in my opinion.
Combined with personalities from the cartoon that really grabbed me. Cool little world that had robots and cars and planes and all the things that I loved as a kid.
The fact that it can transform from a vehicle or a plane and then into a robot, I guess you've got that kind of double edge.
The idea of robots transforming into vehicles, guns, microscopes, friggin' boom boxes. It was just crazy. It was such inventive thing that so many people just hadn't really seen at that point in time.
Yeah, something that was back then was something completely different to what we've had before. Definitely unique.
Yeah, it's just something that we never really saw before. I just spent hours looking at them. I just love them so much.
Transformers and transforming robots in general were kind of like my existence for years and years and years.
To still see the vintage stuff today, it still holds up.
From the cartoons and comics to seeing the toys on the shelves, everyone's experience with their first encounter of the Transformers is as unique as the robots themselves.
I kind of got introduced by Transformers with a guy who came over from Japan. He had a sort of like a welcome to England party. We went around his house and we just saw all these amazing transforming robots, which I'd never seen before. It just blew me away.
I grew up in Japan, so I got there in 1980 when the Dial-clones and whatnot were really just starting to kind of get big.
I thought you'd ask me what my first exposure, I guess, to Transformers was, and I think it was with you, John. It was with coming over to your house and we'd play with virtually every toy line. I'd bring stuff over, you'd have stuff, and we would just play with everything.
I think just like any other kid who was super into Transformers and whatnot, I would set up big, battles. I'd have, like the pilots in there, some of them would be on the ground.
I remember you had a bunch of Transformers, and that was my first real introduction to it. And I remember thinking, how is this possible that something that is one shape can turn into another? It just blew my mind at the time, because you really had two toys in one. I think you clued me in that there were cartoons and there were comic books, and that kind of got me interested.
First thing I saw was the British size version of the comic in the UK.
The British version of Marvel Comics came out. This is the original 1984 one. Collecting this, getting this every fortnight, every 2 weeks. It was like a Christmas every 2 weeks for me.
And that was the first thing that sort of drew me in. I'm sure it was either Megatron or Optimus Prime on the front of it, or something, and that was it.
I think the first thing I saw was the commercials for the toys. And I think that really got me, because they had really good commercials.
In the world of the Transformers, nothing is what it seems. Meet the Constructicons, 6 evil robots that transform into one mechanical giant.
First time I encountered Transformers, I think it was a TV commercial. I can still kind of remember part of it. There were, the standard kids playing in the backyard that was so much cooler than my backyard.
Transformers, more than meets the eye. The Transformers.
It's Devastator, 6 Constructicons in 1.
Each sold separately.
Devastator's attacking.
Meets the eye.
The Transformers sold separately from Hasbro.
You can see they did a really, really good job. They make me want to buy those toys right now.
I think it was the cartoon I saw first. They used to show them Saturday mornings.
That noise is like what makes me think Transformers first of all.
Hey, let's get back to Iacon. Load up!
Did a really good job with how the animation was, and tying it into a story that made kids just want to play with it after every episode, play with their toys and stuff like that.
I grew up watching the cartoons. Yeah, I think I found them on, like in America, you had the Saturday morning cartoons. We didn't have that in the Netherlands during my childhood, but I found them on the BBC. And that's how I got introduced into Transformers. Watched them together with my little brother.
So we watched G.I. Joe and Star Wars as kids and stuff. And, especially G.I. Joe, the lasers all going, and nobody hits anybody. But in Transformers, these guys took a beating. I mean, they got hit, they punched each other, the lasers hit each other, they'd roll off of cliffs and mountains, and it would be like a cliffhanger, and then go to a commercial, and you'd run, go get a snack, and come back and see what happened to your favorite Transformer. I mean, there was nothing like that back at the time.
Whether it is to inspire or to threaten, each side needs a commander to lead its army.
I mean, Autobots, they're heroic. Decepticons, they're evil. I'll put it like this. If you're playing with the Autobots, you think, I don't want to play these good guys. I want to play with the bad guys. They're so much cooler. They turn into sort of guns, tape machines, cassettes. But then you kind of play with those guys and you look at those and you think, well, I should be playing with the heroes. So I'm always kind of split between good versus evil.
The Autobots. Ultimate heroes. Galactic warriors. And they wouldn't be the same without their magnificent leader, Optimus Prime.
You're old, Megatron. Yesterday's model, ready for the scrap heap.
The thing that made the Autobots cool was Optimus Prime.
Optimus Prime is my boy. I love Optimus Prime.
And the fact that they were all following him said something about who the Autobots were.
Optimus Prime, yeah, he's a true leader.
It's not very original, but I'm also the kind of guy who says that Superman is his favorite superhero, but Optimus Prime is my favorite.
Heroic. I mean, basically, he's I think he's like Superman. I mean, he's red, white, and blue.
I'm the truck, not the monkey. I appreciate the monkey, and I love that series, but he's the real Optimus Prime semi-truck, chest opening up, the Matrix, that's the perfect one.
He was also one of the few toys I did have. I remember seeing him in the store in that big, gigantic box and just staring at it for what felt like weeks.
I mean, the fact that he comes in a trailer, you can do so much with that as well. Roller always needed a bit more airtime in the shows, maybe.
Somehow I persuaded my mom to get him for me, and then I broke him because the leg came off.
So happy when I got him when I was a child. I mean, this is my childhood version of him.
It wasn't just that he looked cool, and it wasn't just that he was red, because I liked red. But yeah, he just had this Paladin-esque personality, totally selfless and strong.
It's time for you and me to settle things.
Lots of love for his fellow Autobots. He will protect his fellow Autobots all the time.
He's almost human in his personality. Cares so much about people on Earth, making sure they're safe.
His self-sacrificing, his leadership, how much he cares not only about his own people, but about humanity.
Trailbreaker! Here, Prime! Almost have it!
There was always such a different thing, because most aliens want to come down and invade and destroy.
I got somewhat of a feeling that Optimus was more than just a leader. He kind of made some comments, especially in the cartoons, of taking care of the planet. I mean, the whole story was Cybertron, their planet was out of resources. So they came to Earth to kind of gather resources. 4 million years later, or however many years later, they wake up from a volcano. Optimus, in many times in the cartoon, said that they had to protect Earth, or that they were here to kind of, make sure that what happened to Earth wasn't the same thing that was going to happen to Cybertron.
You destroy everything you touch, Megatron. I'm going to end your hunger once and for all.
Plus, they weren't, trying to kill people. They were trying to help people.
I think it was always strange or clever that they are classed as like aliens or something from another planet. Most aliens want to come down and destroy the Earth. These aliens wanted to come down and protect us, and become friends with us. Well, the Autobots did anyway, at least.
He is, to me, kind of the ultimate leader. He is a diplomat. He tries to use diplomacy as his first, but he's willing to back things up if need be, and he will give anything to protect his people.
You're not pushing slaves around this time.
That, to me, I think screams volumes about what kind of a leadership role that character took, and the type of writing and the type of stories that they were trying to tell kids back in the day. Very heavy stuff for kids to be watching.
I think it was a good influence on a lot of us as kids.
A role model for every kid, I think.
I mean, I don't want to sound too sad, but a lot of us didn't have really good male role models, and I feel like he still holds up looking back as a good male role model. I mean, that those leadership qualities and his selflessness, and also how much he genuinely cared about the people below him.
To get qualities like that from an inanimate object that's a robot that cares enough about human life and about another planet.
He's got all the qualities of a leader should.
Optimus is just a phenomenal character.
One shall stand, one shall fall.
No great leader is complete without his nemesis, and Megatron fills that void perfectly.
Give it up, Megatron. The universe is mine.
The maniacal Megatron.
Megatron as a character, yeah, he's the pure form of evil leader.
Megatron was the big bad.
Definitely mega evil.
It's over, Prime.
Megatron, wow. He was not my favorite, oddly. I think because for somehow in the back of my mind, the fact that he turned into a gun just seemed, just the fact that he shrank down as a gun and had to be shot by someone else in that form, because it seems kind of one note, I think, at least in my memory of him.
I really wanted a Megatron, but I never was able to get a Megatron at the time. Now I have one.
I mean, it doesn't look like a toy.
When he was in a robot, he had a huge, gigantic, wave motion gun on his hand or arm, and that was actually pretty cool and kind of scary as a kid and watching that, because, oh my God, what if someone actually gets hit by that thing? So he had a great presence in the cartoon. He wasn't as interesting to me as some, but he did at least make for a good villain leader. I did like him for that.
He's evil in every way. You either love him or hate him.
Guy was the master at being conniving. He was a hothead.
Everything I touch is food for my hunger for power.
But he was still able to plan reasonably strategically.
It's that philosophy of might makes right. And
He's kind of got Thanos qualities to him. He's trying to do the best thing for everybody, what she thinks is.
He's a bit of a weird leader, a fair leader. Well, fair. He rather throws his minions under the bus.
No, Megatron, you can't mean to.
he does not care about anyone other than himself.
What's a test without a guinea pigatron?
He's one of those guys who does not give it about any of his people. They are cannon fodder. They're a means to an end. He is like the king of the Pyrrhic victory. The guy will do whatever it takes to win, even if the winning means that he, takes it in the shorts.
And you also see that because he has that attitude where might makes right and whatever I say goes, he always loses.
Return to base! Retreat!
In every episode, usually they lose because they were too greedy or too foolish or didn't work together properly.
He wants supremacy. He wants to be, this grand leader, but he's his own worst enemy. He's the one who really screws himself at every turn because of his greed and his conniving.
You're finished, Megatron! Never Prime! You never guessed Autobot would be destroyed!
His best quality for him are also his worst enemies. What the hell are you going to do?
Whereas the Autobots, through Optimus Prime's leadership, is able to be way more effective because they all work together as a team. And so I think that's an interesting dichotomy of leaders.
Maybe you should listen to Starscream a bit more. I don't know.
The Autobots would have lost eons ago if I'd been calling the shots.
I just think he wanted to be liked. He was misunderstood maybe as a child. I don't know.
I will be avenged.
One of the coolest subsets within the Transformers are the Autobot cars, able to transform from robot to such vehicles as a truck, van, fair lady, and even a Formula One car. These Autobots took our imaginations to another level. Who could resist a car that transforms into a robot?
Man, the car line. That was probably one of the first things that just truly blew my mind.
Like boys our age when we were growing up, we really liked cars, and the Autobots kind of served that purpose.
All the other transforming bots that I played with, whether it's Machine Robo or whatever, were all kind of cartoony. But with the Transformers, with the cars, they brought that element of realism to them that really kind of brought it into this world and kind of grounded it more. So you could really believe that this super realistic Porsche could potentially be like, when you see like a Porsche in real life, it's like, oh, that could potentially be a robot. It's just that idea of bringing it into reality was what was so amazing about that particular line, I feel.
They just, I don't know, it just struck a chord with me. I like the cars.
These medium-sized vehicles transform into some of the coolest bots we've ever known.
Jazz, organize a battle unit. Autobots, start your engines!
Yes is a great toy, both in robot and in car form.
Jazz was another one that I totally dug. It came to like the head design and stuff. Like, I love that kind of like single visor, like eye design and whatnot.
Prowl. He was one of the few toys that I owned, and he was cool. He was sort of a side character. He didn't get a lot of focus in the cartoon that I can recall, but it was always that almost made him better because I had the toy and I knew who Prowl was. And it's like, occasionally he would show up and it's like, oh, there's Prowl. And it's like a secret thing that I had with the show. Whenever Prowl showed up, it felt like the show was talking specifically to me because I could hold up the toy and...
Jailbreaker! Wheeljack!
Wheeljack, I've always loved. The Lancer, sort of Lancer, yeah. It's a sport racing car. It's a unique car, I think. So, because most of the cars are American, aren't they? And this one's sort of definitely European. I just love that car and what he turns into. And it's got that sort of, it's got those weird sort of bits on the side. It's just different. It's different, and it's sort of he's got that sort of bit under there, and it's weird. He's sort of he looks a bit like a robot Snake Eyes in a way, because I like Snake Eyes with a thing on his, and he's got it on the bottom. It just, I don't know, it's weird. I just like the car as well.
This should cloud the issue.
Mirage, I remember Mirage.
Now you see me. Now you don't.
I think Mirage was one, and which one was the Formula One car? Was that Mirage? Yeah. So yeah, he was cool.
Sunstreaker. Side swipe.
I wanted a side swipe, but I ended up with a Sunstreaker. Loved him so much. I just love his face. He's got such a cool face. The sculpt on his face is awesome. And the fact that he's a Lamborghini, which is one of my favorite cars.
Yeah, I mean, back in the 80s, Lamborghinis were it. So those two were awesome.
But it sort of goes beyond the design of a Lamborghini, you know, with all the silver and the engine at the back. So yeah, he's very special to me. I think he was a bit vain, so I think they cut his parts a bit, I think, maybe.
All right, bro, let's go.
But definitely Sunstreaker for me is my first and most favourite Transformer of all, I think. So yeah.
But yeah, I love the cars, especially Prowl and Ratchet and Ironhide. Ironhide and Ratchet as a toy, complete miss.
I always thought it was funny that Ratchet and his red twin, their robot mode in the cartoons and the comics was completely different from their actual robot mode, because they didn't even have a face. They just sort of like, it's like the designers got lazy and wanted to go home that night.
Because yeah, a sticker for a face.
It always struck me as so strange and weird.
Mike here wants to know how we transform, Hound. Easy, like this.
So Hound was the one that I liked the best. I loved the Jeep, and he also had cool accessories.
Design-wise, I thought Hound was super cool. I love the way his head popped out of the cowl of the Jeep.
And I think also at the same time when I was watching the cartoon, I think I was watching a lot of MASH. So MASH had those same Jeeps. So in like little kid mind, I think that they somehow got connected.
He loved Earth. He didn't want to leave. He loved nature. He was kind, especially to like Sam or Buster, whatever part of the world you come from. Yeah, I just think he was great. Yeah, very, very brave.
Here's your friend Megatron to keep you company.
And the fact that he can do holograms, I mean, that's pretty cool. So, yeah.
Holograms look so real, nobody will know the difference.
See, one of the last Transformers I got was the blue Corvette, which I guess was called Trax.
Trax is definitely my top favorite. I just love that Corvette Stingray model.
I'd rather stay in my stunning auto mode.
Especially to the G1 toy, Trax.
I liked him a lot, though, in the sense that he transformed in a kind of a complex way.
Gangway! Surf's up! And I'm talking up!
Honestly, the design of Blue Streak captivated me from the beginning. Didn't really release the blue version in the States, I don't think. I think it was just the silver and red, right? So in Japan, they had a few different colorways. on it. And my favorite one was the blue and gold. This is going to sound stupid, but when a design element of a robot has kind of like horns or something, I just really love that. I don't know why, but I just love that detail. I just absolutely love Blue Streak.
Let's roll.
As a child, we all loved jet fighters, and Starscream and the Seekers were no exception. We had to have all of these amazing toys.
My time will come, Megatron.
Starscream, his character in the cartoon, was just so cool.
Starscream is such a crony, cowardly yes man.
I love that character so much.
Weird character, sneaky character, always trying to become the leader rather than Megatron.
Second in command of the Decepticons, eh?
My desire for power is as great as yours.
I mean, would you really have him? I mean, he's not really trustworthy. As soon as you turn your back, he'd probably stab you.
Of course, he's the yes man to Megatron's face, but the moment he turns his back, dude has a knife out ready to go for friggin' Brutus and Julius Caesar.
To be at odds with Megatron all the time, but just be that sniveling little weasel that he was. That he always kind of tried to do things behind the back of Megatron, but then he'd always come back. He was just a great character.
Please, don't fire. I was wrong.
Starscream had a lot of character to him and was always causing problems with Megatron, which perhaps as a fan of the Autobots, it was nice to see Starscream because he kept screwing everything up, which was a positive.
Starscream! What in the universe are you doing?
He always has like 10 irons in the fire, and like every idea that he has basically sucks. Power hungry and kind of dumb. But he's also, in a weird way, kind of endearing because of it.
So going back to Optimus Prime, like Optimus Prime is kind of like an idealized version of like a lot of people's selves, you know, being a good leader, being selfless and everything. Whereas I think Starscream is more actually true to the way a lot of us are inside. Like he's vain, he's greedy, he's like super arrogant, he thinks he's better than everybody else. He's like the dark side of our personalities. And his voice. That voice just really makes him.
And his voice voiced perfectly.
I now lead the Decepticons.
What? You can actually hear Starscream. You can hear Cobra Commander in Starscream and vice versa.
What poppycock is this?
You can't not hear that voice and think those two guys because that voice was so unique.
But I mean, you gotta love him. Great colours. I think that kind of like overshadows his personality. Great looking Transformer though. But as the sort of like the head of the Seekers, I suppose he does his job, I guess.
Starscream, Thundercracker, Skywalk, take off!
I do remember those other jets were background characters. Starscream was the main one, and they were almost like the minions to go out and do the dirty work of whatever the main characters didn't want to do at the time.
Time to turn on the heat!
Oh yeah, and Starscream was like kind of the jet, and I always kind of felt like the other jets were just like, I don't know, like additions, like poor copies.
So the other jets, they had to, I think it was, a marketing decision to create two other jets, reuse the same mold, make them different colors, but give them different personalities in the cartoon and hope the kids would want them or buy them, even though they had Starscream. And maybe it's a hard sell on their parents to be like, you got that jet. No, I don't. It's a different one. It's blue, it's black, or whatever the color is, right? Genius marketing or hacky kind of, I don't know. It's hard to say.
Teleport and destroy!
They had almost like superpowers. I liked that aspect of it. He could transport from one place to another.
It was just a gimmick. I didn't really care so much about it. Like maybe it'll help him get out of a jam for an episode. But I'm not going to care about that character. You're not going to make me care. I have my Starscream. I don't need anything else.
Well, Thundercracker, Skywalker, and Starscream each have their own personality. Prefer the Coneheads though. I'm a bigger fan of the three Coneheads.
I always really liked the Coneheads. I thought they looked really cool.
And they did look like this.
I know Transformers look weird, but the Coneheads look really terrible. Like, I'm sorry. I know people love the Coneheads.
The head kind of embedded in this kind of big geometric shape,
which is kind of off-putting.
You had different wing designs.
And so we've got Dirge here. So yeah, he's cool. Most of the Seekers come with the little tailgates on the end. He's the only one that doesn't. First, I think he is the fastest Seeker jet. Yeah, this one here is my childhood one. So got him for Christmas way back when.
Ramjet just looks the best out of the three.
Well, for me, the Coneheads were kind of cannon fodder. They sent them in knowing they're just going to be defeated practically.
Yeah, I think they got their backsides kicked in the Earth battle.
Never send them on a mission that's actually important. Of course, this would be what if Decepticons actually had good management. They don't. And you would send the Coneheads out, and of course they're going to fail. Of course.
I don't know why I liked, the design of the Coneheads better. Maybe partially because it was different.
Yeah, really cool.
I mostly just feel bad for them because they're really awkward heads.
The Autobots didn't need an army of jets on their side. They just needed one. Jetfire.
Can anyone join the party, or do we need an invitation?
Jetfire.
Oh, Jetfire. Yeah, I mean, Jetfire I always wanted Jetfire so bad as a kid. He was just so big, and I imagine expensive because I didn't get him.
I mean, what a rare-looking Transformer he is.
Jetfire. I missed out on Roy Folker's Veritech the first time around. So Jetfire was like my second chance to actually get that bot.
I love his visor. I mean, originally he was changed to Skyfire in the cartoon. That's pretty common knowledge.
I mean, he started out as the Decepticon, as leader of the Sweeps. Not the Sweeps, the Seekers.
Originally, he switched sides from the Decepticons. There's many different versions to the story of how that happened. He's probably the greatest Transformer that has, a good grasp on having a conscience and doing the right thing.
I rewatched the episode where he appears, right? He's frozen under the ice, and how come a robot he doesn't have a metabolism like we do? If he's under the ice, he's just going to be awake. He's just awake down there, just stuck in the ice, and they just leave him there like it's not a big deal. It's like a fate worse than death. That's what you might do to Megatron to make an example of him, is just freeze him in ice and just leave him there.
Laserbeak returns, Megatron.
As cunning and maniacal as Megatron is, no great leader can put his plans in motion without loyal subjects, and one of the loyalist was Soundwave.
And of course, the old favorite Soundwave.
Soundwave is amazing!
Yeah, I just love Soundwave as a character from the cartoon.
Alert! Energy transmission detected.
He is the coolest out of all of them.
The whole Transformers thing was great. More than meets the eye, robots in disguise, they turn into other things. The real life items, I think my favorite character had to have been Soundwave.
He's the only one who really has pets. Because you kind of get the feeling that even the humanoid ones are almost like his pets. They have a different kind of relationship with him than you would expect of just minions or followers.
The cassettes, I love the toy, looks great.
Toy-wise, I like that he had the things that came out of his chest. He had the cassette tapes, he had Laserbeak and Frenzy and them.
Having a bunch of tiny robots inside of a bigger robot and how they transformed, I think it's just a classic idea. And
of course, is it Ravage, or whatever he says, Ravage.
Buzzsaw and Laserbeak, they're awesome little toys.
Soundwave, playback Laserbeak's findings. As you command, Megatron.
Who does not want, that robotic bird on your shoulder with laser eyes and spy powers? I mean, that's awesome.
Rumble and Frenzy,
Bumble, activate pile drivers. Operation Tidal Wave.
The way they transformed was pretty cool, and like they're very small and intricate.
And then the post-movie ones, Red Bat, great character.
Having all the transforming cassettes, I mean, he was a one-bot army, you know? He was just the coolest.
That was just great. And the batteries, weren't the batteries his weapons or something like that? Just the thought that was put into that.
I know they always want to change Soundwave and to be more modern, but I really wish they would just stick with that kind of Walkman style, because that's so iconic. And even like young kids today, if you show them a cassette, they know what it is. I know people say they don't. They know.
His weird flat affect was just cool.
He was the only one with the voice. No one else in the cartoon had that voice. That just seemed pretty awesome to me.
Laserbeak, eject, Operation. God, I'm doing this terribly.
Prepare for battle. Operation Warfare.
Plus, he always seemed to be very loyal to Megatron, which I guess spoke to me in terms of finding loyalty a positive trait, misplaced though it may have been at the time.
What was the kid? Spike, was that his name in the cartoons? Where did this come from? And he picks up the little Walkman, and he was, moments ago it was a 20, 30-foot robot.
Wonder who left this here.
To counter Soundwave, the Autobots need their own master of the airwaves. And in this role, they have Blaster.
Blaster is rad.
Hold on to your dancing shoes and go, man, go!
So with Blaster, I always wanted him to be as kind of prominent as Soundwave.
Awesome. I can just imagine him doing breakdance moves all day.
Blaster was all right, but he was always like the less cool Soundwave.
Like Soundwave was like always there. I always wanted them to be I suppose maybe I wanted symmetry.
Boombox is fine, but it just wasn't as cool as a Walkman.
Blaster, awesome transformer. He's like, I suppose you've got Soundwave. He's like the heavy metal, the sound coming out of his chest. And I guess Blaster's more 80s pop.
For me, he just wasn't anywhere near as cool as his counterpart. I know he tried, though.
The thing is with Blaster, he looks great colours and everything, but I don't think his counterparts, his cassettes had this, compared to Soundwave's cassettes, because they're just iconic.
Was it one of the early episodes of the Headmasters where him and Soundwave have that insane, just incredibly brutal battle? Like people's arms are being ripped off, and I was like, wow, neither one of them really struck me as brawlers, but that was an incredibly brutal fight, and that's why it always comes to mind when I think of him.
Shock and awe is in his name. Experimenting on Autobots is his game. The enigmatic and mysterious Shockwave.
Your primitive weapon is useless, Autobot fool!
Shockwave was almost like the Boba Fett of the Transformers era.
Shockwave is the Boba Fett of Transformers.
Wasn't he in the first cartoon series and they left Cybertron, but Megatron was like, oh, Shockwave, you gotta stay here. And you were like, what? It's this cool purple looking guy.
You are to stay behind. I entrust Cybertron to you, Shockwave.
He was always left on Cybertron too. Like it felt like there's a lot of missing pieces in his story about what exactly was going on, because he seemed super powerful, super smart.
Fear not, Megatron. Cybertron shall remain as you leave it. Excellent.
He was mysterious. He was the one they left behind.
It's shrouded with mystery, completely shrouded with mystery. You saw him in the cartoon very briefly.
And you didn't know anything about him, but that they bring him back later on and he turns into this cool gun, and you just felt like they were withholding him for so long, and how he just did some cool stuff.
He just looks cool. With that one eye just glaring at you.
Yeah, he was such a trip. I mean, he was so futuristic and just kind of bizarre looking.
I don't remember much about him other than the mystique of him and the fact that there was this one character that they left behind. And why did they leave him behind? And I want to see more of this character.
Where are your Autobot friends?
I do remember him when he came in the comics, and I just have these memories of him showing up and just firing his gun down in this mess of Autobots and just everyone being blown to smithereens. And
I never quite understood why he wasn't actually the leader. Or maybe he was a leader. Maybe he was like the leader, but he wasn't acknowledged as the leader, right?
It's kind of, yeah, he has leadership capabilities, but doesn't want to be a leader. Although, yeah, it depends on if you read the comics or the cartoons.
But who's out in the front doing the actual fighting? It's Megatron. And maybe the leader would be further back because, well, Megatron's going to get killed. He's smart enough to be like, I'm staying behind. You guys can do whatever. I'm going to do my experiments.
You know, when I actually saw him and the coloring and what he turned into, the futuristic gun, I thought it was fantastic. I thought he was great. But to this day, I still don't know much about him. He's still kind of a mystery to me.
Definitely my favorite Decepticon.
Prepare for termination.
Shockwave to me, so glad I got him. So...
Where the Decepticons may have a mad scientist, the Autobots have a peaceful counterpart in Perceptor. He loves and respects all life, no matter its form.
Perceptor, I need a spectrographic analysis of this ore.
Of course, Prime.
Oh, Perceptor. I love Perceptor.
Perceptor was one of those guys that I kind of liked, but because I was a science nerd growing up, and so, you know, I just thought it was really interesting and cool that this bot turned into a friggin' microscope and that you could actually, like, use it.
In the 80s, there's almost every kid had that little red microscope. And then Perceptor was kind of like the robot transformer version of that.
I'll probably take him into school to do my science project. Look at some algae or something.
So he's not all that tough. Like, his whole shtick is being smart and, I think, investigating stuff.
He's way up there. I mean, you've got people like Ratchet and Wheeljack, you know, the really intelligent Transformers, but like Preceptor, he's like a professor. He's like, you know, he's up there. He's like your school physics teacher.
He wasn't like necessarily a warrior, you know. He was more about science and examining things and stuff. And also, you know, he's a red robot, so a little kid just like the red robot.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that I have my Perceptor in my closet right now.
You'll extract no information from us, Megatron. I promise you.
And I did have one of those little red telescopes, so I always wanted the robot to go alongside him. Yeah, I love that guy.
They may have been 3 times the terror for the Autobots, but they were 3 times the fun for us kids. These are the Decepticon Triple Changers.
The idea that you could transform something into like multiple forms was like the designs, like the engineering and whatnot was amazing.
Blitzwing turned into a I think a Panzer tank, a fighter jet, and this awesome robot, a very fast transformer, and in tank mode. I understand for a tank, I think if you put him up against Warpath, tank mode, I think he would win.
Blitzwing, the lesser triple changer. Sorry, Astro Train's better. Okay, Astro Train was probably the coolest bot that I had my hands on at the time.
Astro Train. He transformed from a steam train into a space shuttle.
When it turned into a shuttle, I mean, obviously there were like blocky bits and everything like that, but I mean, it legit looked like a shuttle. You know, the train form was like legit train. I mean, damn.
It's one of those transformers where the shape-shifting debate comes into context, where it's he's the same size as Megatron when he stood next to him in robot form, but then he transforms into this shuttle, then he expands and everybody climbs inside him.
Yeah, I mean, triple changers were friggin' awesome.
The Autobot Minibots. These little vehicles might be small in stature, but they turn into robots that have a big place in our hearts.
I think the mini vehicles were my first Transformer toys.
Everybody loves the Minibots.
Kind of enjoyed the fact that they were a little smaller in scale.
Yeah, those little mini ones I really like, and I still like now because I see that there's more on the shelf now.
So yeah, they're awesome, and they're easily collectible.
I didn't mind that the transformations were more simple or whatever.
For the small ones, yeah, Cliff Jumper, Bumblebee, maybe there were like 6 or 8 of them.
But they were kind of the foundation, the Minibots, you know?
Autobots, transform! Not you, Bumblebee.
Bumblebee, he'll always be a Volkswagen to me. So yeah, I mean, he's very special to me as well.
I'm gonna say something that's kind of possibly a controversial opinion. I don't like Bumblebee.
I got Bumblebee with birthday money. I got Sunstreaker for my birthday, sort of main present. In the birthday cards, I always seem to get extra money. Go and spend it on some chocolates, and it was like, no way, I'm going straight down the toy store and get myself a Bumblebee.
Bumblebee was awesome.
Love him so much. So definitely my second favorite Transformer. I just love yellow. I just love yellow.
I didn't hate him. Like, I wouldn't throw things at the screen when he was on, but he got way too much screen time, in my opinion.
Ah, shucks, and I was hoping to try out my boogie board.
So yeah, Bumblebee, Cliff Jumper.
Definitely Bumblebee and Cliff Jumper, because, I mean, those were the first ones that I ever saw.
Love the characters, love the toys.
I just found the other characters more interesting, like Cliff Jumper.
Hey, Devastator, you'll get a real charge out of this!
His personality is a bit more edgy, and a bit more interesting to me as a kid, and I kept hoping for more Cliff Jumper, but it was always just Bumblebeeing up the place. That's a thing.
Also, a really favorite of mine is little Cliff Jumper.
Cliff Jumper, great personality.
I just love the toy. Cliff Jumper, you will always find him in the house.
Easy to transform, same as Bumblebee. And Casey Kasem, I mean, what can you say? What a voice.
The first 6 Minibots got repaints and mishmashes, sort of mashups. The first was a mishmash between Cliff Jumper and Bumblebee, named Hubcap.
Gears, not the best looking face in the world.
Gears, love his, especially his character in the cartoon.
Megatron and the Decepticons. I bet they're behind this.
Should have got a bit more airtime in the cartoon, I think.
You know, Gears, the grumpy little dude.
I don't know, maybe his face isn't really kind of like trustworthy, I'm not sure.
Always ready for a fight.
Gears had a red and white repaint named Swerve.
I know the racing bit was bad news, but would anybody listen to me? Oh no!
Puffer, I don't know. I mean, great at fixing stuff. I don't know how he fixed things with those arms, really. Why was his arms backwards? And what a hero pulling Optimus Prime's trailer for him when he was injured. So, a great little guy.
Huffer's counterpart was a blue truck named Pipes.
Let's see, I like Brawn.
You're out of the picture, guys!
Brawn. Again, courageous, brave, would do anything for any other Autobot.
Design-wise, I don't particularly know why, because he's kind of, chunky and square and has sort of a weird face.
He was like a mini Hulk. Also, great personality. Tough as old boots, really.
Brawn's clone took to the wilds, named himself Outback.
Those spikes can't penetrate my repulsor field.
Great work, Windcharger.
Windcharger, not the best looking face. A Trans Am, yeah? Red Trans Am, is that right? I think it was a Trans Am. Actually quite gutted when he got blown away in the movie, like I think we all were.
And Windcharger's reckless buddy was Tailgate.
Sea Spray?
Yeah, Sea Spray. I mean...
yeah, he was the best with the little propellers and stuff. Like, really nice detail. I liked him a lot.
We've got plenty of cars as Autobots, but yeah, hovercraft. I mean, no brainer, really.
Oh, yeah, he had that classic voice. Wasn't like all gurgly and stuff.
who's going to go out and rescue the dolphins? Sea spray. Beachcomber there to clear up the beaches, get rid of the pollution. Great little buggy. Love his colours. Personality-wise, I wasn't sure if he liked Earth or not. At heart, I think he just wanted to go back to Cybertron. So, yeah. But great colours and probably the best rubber wheels on a Minibot you could find.
So what do we care about? Wow! Golden, Zowie, silver!
Warpath. I mean, the quickest Transformer ever. Do it in 2 swift moves.
Warpath, amazing figure, also one of my favorite toys.
Warpath was like the Mr. T of the Transformer world to me. You probably couldn't get him on a plane though. I wouldn't like to see him go up against Blitzwing in tank mode though. I mean, I think his gun caliber is not on a match to Blitzwing, but great little character. Had a great sense of humour too, I seem to remember.
Shoot me in the back, will you? Well, Sam!
You know what we needed with the Autobots? Autobots which could fly, and obviously I think Powerglide carried the Autobots where they needed to go.
How about this place, Spike? Talk about nutsy scenery, huh?
Yeah, great little Transformer, and probably one of the only Minibots with arm articulation. Hey, how are you doing?
Was the red airplane? Yeah. Oh, Powerglide. Yeah. Yes. I think I had him.
Little fact. You remember, he actually fell in love with a human girl. Nice to have a bit of romance in the cartoon. It's pretty cool. Cosmos, probably the most fastest Transformer ever. I don't know how fast he can go, but it's like light years.
Cosmos has always been a favorite toy of mine. I've got multiple versions of Cosmos.
Odd head, very odd head, tiny features, gets a lot of hate, but I've come around to love him a bit more. Green and yellow and red. I mean, what a great... He's almost like Man-at-Arms. Wheelie. First seen in the Transformers animated movie. I think he really stands out. A lot of people really don't like him. I mean, if Grimlock will let him ride on his back, I mean, he's got to have some good qualities in him there somewhere.
Of all the creatures to ever roam the earth, nothing strikes a child's imagination like the dinosaurs. And Transformers took those amazing creatures to another level by turning them into robots.
Oh my god, the Dinobots are freaking amazing. Dinosaurs and robots.
I don't know what creative person came up with the idea of combining dinosaurs, which kids love, and robots, which kids love.
They cracked it with dinosaurs because every kid loves dinosaurs.
And like, how could you possibly go wrong?
Allow me to introduce Grimlock, Slag, and Sludge.
It was the weird thing about the Dinobots is the names they gave them.
That's Slag, Grimlock, Sludge, and Snarl.
Slag, do fire stuff.
Slag or whatever, and it's such a... And in this country, it's a rude word. And back then, they didn't really think about it. But now it's strange. So yeah.
My favorite Dinobot was the Stegosaurus, basically because, again, that was the one that I had.
Swoop was my absolute,
Yeah, I did always want Swoop. My friend had Swoop. I was so jealous.
And I just thought he looked super cool. Like during his transformation, how his face kind of like came out from, under the beak.
Here come me, Grimlock.
I was always a Grimlock fan because Tyrannosaurs were awesome.
Yeah, Grimlock was always fun to listen to, as dumb as it was.
Did I mind the fact that he was kind of a dimwit? Not really, as long as he chomped on Decepticon ass. I'm perfectly fine with that.
Grimlock is not very intelligent, but I always thought that he could have been a good leader for the Autobots.
Me, Grimlock must lead.
I was a bit dismayed when someone thought to make Grimlock the leader, which, why is Grimlock leading? He's I mean, he can lead the Dinobots. He's fine. But I don't think we should put him in charge of the whole thing.
Their cartoon characters are fun, but really their figures, I think, are what really sold me on them. They, once again, like that idea of just like a really iconic look to them. I mean, I love that metallic look and how they transformed and stuff.
All the Dinobots came with chrome and gold and slightly different, and they came with loads of extra weapons.
The one thing I remember loving most about the Dinobots, and this is kind of silly, but the shiny gold that they had on them. What other Transformers had shiny gold parts?
Oh God, I love the Dinobots so damn much.
My boy hit my nose.
Really say fine friends today.
Me Grimlock say we on our way.
Ravaging the land, devouring everything in their path. It's the Insecticons.
A little heavy on the electrons, Electron.
So the Insecticons, I was always kind of confused about how many there were. Not the individuals, right? But like, it seemed like they could clone themselves somehow. Like sometimes there would be like just a whole ton of them. I mean, also they seem like they're almost their own kind of faction that got kind of dominated by the Decepticons.
Insecticons, we've got Shrapnel, turns into a stag beetle. I always thought that Shrapnel was the leader. Then we have Bombshell. Who turns into a rhinoceros beetle? Is that right? And then we've got Kickback, who turns into a grasshopper or locust, I guess.
Did we ever get like a chance to see their origin story? Like, it was they always seemed like a different faction. I don't know if that was true or that was ever intended, or if it was just because a lot of those toys were from different companies.
I remember, it's another one that I remember getting in Diaclone form, kind of early on in like the early 80s.
I got these quite early on. I think it was like my third or fourth Transformer.
The Insecticons I always thought were super cool because they were the first ones that I remember that had a design off of an organic kind of creature. I think that they predated the Dinobots.
They were in the cartoons at the same sort of time as the Dinobots were introduced. So, there was a big marketing thing, like the Autobots had dinosaurs as their new wave, and the Decepticon range had insects. And I just think it was a nice little concept.
They were interesting. They were unique. The design was really cool.
Great little characters, great little toys.
As a child, you always wanted the largest toy on the block. And in Transformers, those were the Combiners and the Titans. When one of us got one, the neighborhood came running.
Of course, I have a huge soft spot for Combiners myself.
Insecticons, unite! Behold, Minosaur!
Well, I like the idea of the combining robots, so anytime they would show up in the cartoon, I wanted to play with that toy so much.
I can imagine the pitch meeting. How can we take this to another level? We've got the one thing that transforms into another, but how can we turn it into Voltron where it snaps together and creates something that's even bigger and even more massive?
Bigger robots. When you were a kid, they look when you put them all together, they look amazing.
The Ultimate Combiner, I think, was the first one, which was Devastator, which, especially coming out in G1, was just such an awesome idea for me.
For combiners, when we were kids, my brother actually got Devastator.
I love like so many of those combiners, but I don't think anybody got to that kind of an iconic look as much as they did.
Funny little side story, because he was collecting the Constructicons.
Constructicons, transform!
He asked our aunt for his birthday, I want this character. So my aunt goes to the toy store. They come up with the card, and she goes like, it's green and purple. Don't you have it in any other colors?
Goodbye, Autobots!
Like it's very striking. I mean, people who don't know anything about Transformers see those guys and they recognize them, and they know like something about the story. Like, oh, those guys combined to make a way bigger robot.
You had to buy the separate pieces to put them all together at the end. As a kid, it was so frustrating. You couldn't afford the whole kit, so you could only get one piece at a time. And you still had a toy that transformed into, a cement truck or a bulldozer or something, but you wanted to build that whole big set.
I do like the Constructicon, those. I do like those. And is it the one that the Brutus? Is it? It's Bruticus. Sorry. Yeah, but that's such a cool one as well. Yeah.
I am also known as Bruticus.
Gotta be Bruticus. He's military. He's just like the Hulk. He just once they combine, starts to smash things. An Onslaught in the middle. Great leader, always sorted them out. Wouldn't like to meet him down a dark alley.
There was a combiner, 3 bots fit together to be a camera.
And I still remember a friend of mine had almost all of the aerial bots, and I had the one in the middle, the larger one who was afraid of heights. I convinced him to let me borrow them, but it was fun to go home and connect them all together. And they always look so much better in the cartoon though.
Predacons merge to become Predaking!
I thought Predaking was just so cool, and he had such an interesting look to him. Bright, like yellow and orange on that black. Just looked so awesome. And he had friggin' wings, man. It just looked cool and brutal and vicious.
Transform to Defensor.
Transformers, when it comes to Titans, I mean, there's some big boys on the block there.
As a kid, I got Metroplex. As a kid, I never got Trypticon. I only got him later on as an adult.
Says who? Says Metroplex.
Metroplex, he's just a force. I mean, he's a city. He can carry thousands of other Transformers inside him.
What I loved about those two is also all the little extra characters. Like with Metroplex, you get little Scamper and Six Gun and little Slammer the tank.
I would probably put him on par with Trypticon.
Well, I'm a big Godzilla fan, so Trypticon 100%, because that's basically just big Transformer version of Godzilla, just going through, just taking out cities. So I just loved him.
The fact that you can transform into a walking dinosaur. Who doesn't want that when you're a kid?
Once again, this is like a strange little kid idea. I always wanted him to have his own spin-off series, which I think I just imagined him just destroying cities. No, Trypticon could totally take out Godzilla. There's no. I mean, I would like to see, him to go for Mechagodzilla first. We want, do that Godzilla thing where you have multiple monsters.
Prepare to feel the sting of Scarpanak. Watch this, Squat for Brains!
You're our only hope, Omega.
Omega Supreme was an idea that I loved. I mean, how long did he take to build? Because he's huge.
Omega Supreme, I mean, as a toy, he was mechanical. There was a train that went round him and his rocket shot off into space.
The toy was not as huge as you would have expected, of course. The toy with the things on the back, and
he's a force to be reckoned with, isn't he? He's awesome. I mean, he's got that shield that goes down over his face.
He had the huge gun on him, which I just wanted to see him just blow the crap out of Decepticons with.
I think Omega Supreme's probably one of those strongest Autobots.
Vengeance mine.
The movie and beyond. Even though it brought the death of Optimus Prime and many of our favorite bots, this era brought with it many new Transformers that would become classics.
Unicron.
Yeah, I mean, Unicron was fantastic. I mean, there's it's hard to make like a really good villain, and I think like at least in the movie, Unicron was like a really, really good villain. You know, great voice.
That voice. Oh man, talk about just this crazy commanding voice.
Orson Welles, Unicron. Foreboding actor, foreboding voice. What better voice to put to this huge planet-eating sphere that goes across the universe, devouring various planets.
Like that kind of idea of like, you know, he just kind of wants to destroy everything. He's just kind of the embodiment of evil.
I mean, the moment you see a giant planet-eating planet transformer, I mean, I feel like you know, you needed to wear diapers because you just dropped one in your shorts.
You know, as far as like alt modes, like when your alt mode is, well, I think this is later, like a planet or a moon, whatever they wanted to call it, like that's a pretty good alt mode. That kind of shows you like the level of power that he's at. It's like, oh no, he can't just turn, you know, he's not going to turn into a tape recorder. No, like, even with their insane like subspace compression thing, like no, Unicron's going to be a damn moon.
Like the coolest bit in that whole scene, right, is after Hot Rod pops the Matrix and becomes Rodimus Prime, how that energy like blows out of Unicron's eyes. I just thought that was so damn cool. Ah, Unicron!
It almost reminds me of like some kind of eldritch evil, where you know even just like witnessing the power of Unicron kind of messes you up in the head.
I hope he doesn't come to visit planet Earth at any time.
The Quintessons.
The look of those guys was just really great. The Quintessons, yeah, those faces, they just really, I don't know, they mesmerized me as a kid. 5 heads,
all different personality.
Like, I didn't care about the story was about them. I just liked the way they looked, and anytime there was an appearance, I was pretty happy.
I'm very glad that they're finally putting out toys of these guys. I've wanted the Quintesson Judge for forever.
Even if you were found guilty or innocent, you went into that pit with those Sharkticons and they were ruthless. They didn't care who you were. They would rip you to shreds.
The Sharkticons, I totally had only one Sharkticon. You know, it would have been pretty cool to army build those. Oh my god, that would have been insane.
Adding those like crazy little Sharkticon guys, like there's a lot of fun to be had there.
Feed him to the Sharkticons.
Mindless bops just with teeth as big as a T-Rex.
But yeah, I mean, ravenous, evil shark beasts, you know, with just an endless appetite for destruction. I just really, really like them a lot.
Were they actually the creators of the Transformers, or were they just liars? Yeah, I think it's just Quintesson propaganda. They probably just found Cybertron, conquered it, and like, we created you.
With Grana, with Minibot. I got better things to do tonight than die.
Springer, what a great Autobot triple changer. I mean, we need Autobots which can fly, so Springer's the man.
Springer. Kind of an annoying character, but overall kind of a cool bot.
Color-wise, you know, you're never gonna not see him. He's pretty colorful.
He was this like vivid green color that was just kind of cool.
I like the fact that his helicopter blades turned into a sword.
I remember, you know, his helicopter rotors turned into a sword.
Yeah, really cool guy.
Come on, RC, let's go.
RC was awesome because first female, you know, Transformer.
She was the Smurfette of the Transformers.
RC is a babe. Yeah, I mean, great. I mean, introduced in the movie, the only female character we had.
Scrooge, the Tracker.
Who can forget Scourge's beard?
The handful of Transformers that had facial hair, right? It was, I don't know what you call that facial hair, that robot facial hair that they all have, the danglies.
There I was, crash landed on the planet Dread, and it was me against the It-Yak.
Cup is the old man of the group, crotchety, war veteran.
Cup. Wow, he's the old-timer, isn't he? He's like the wise man, and he's like the Obi-Wan of Transformers, I guess.
I mean, it was kind of cool to see like an older Transformer. That brings up the question of if they're already millions years old, like how old is Cup? Or was Cup just made to be an old guy?
I always found him endearing. I mean, anybody who can kind of tame the Dinobots, keep them like just enraptured with his stories is pretty awesome.
But that It-Yak just kept sniffing for me. He could smell Energon a mile away.
Not sure what he transformed into. I mean, it was kind of a Cybertronics scooter, I guess, or a wheelchair, maybe?
This could be just the kind of galaxy-busting case I've been wanting to sink my senses into.
I think in the UK, we would describe what Cup would transform into would be a milk float.
It's kind of like with the women, but like the female Transformers, like it's not that he's actually old, just like those Transformers aren't actually women. It's just he was just made that way. He's just to look that way. Kind of like is Alpha Trion. He's got the robot mustache and the long kind of thing, where it's like that's not actually fur or hair. They just made him that way. So was Cup just like born old? That's my theory.
What about me, Magnus? What about me? I can help. I want to help. What about me?
Blur. I mean, it's called Blur because he's always rushing around. Yeah, fast talking.
Blur was kind of cool because there was kind of a weird crossover in pop culture at that point in time, because John Machida, who was the voice of Blur, was this insanely popular guy at that point in time for being able to talk really, really, really fast.
He's voiced by the guy who did the Micro Machines adverts and commercials.
It was so like perfectly of the times.
Another perfect flight completed by yours truly, Skylynx.
I mean, what a menacing Transformer that looks like. I mean, he's got teeth bigger than Grimlocks. Yeah, look fantastic.
I just remember like Skylynx was just always such a jerk. He just seemed like so mean to his friends. Like I was like, the only reason why anyone likes you is because you get them from point A to point B.
All right, maybe unpopular opinion. I thought Skylynx was just kind of lame.
Like he just always thought he was better than everybody else, and I don't think he ever really proved that he was as good as he claimed.
Flawless, right down to the landing, naturally.
Ultra Magnus, talk about like self-sacrificing. I mean, hell, the guy, got himself blown apart to save his people, right?
First saw Ultra Magnus in the cartoon showing up. I liked him. He was just big. He basically huge for an Autobot, which somehow he seemed to fill the Optimus Prime hole for me.
And I was really disappointed that he was not actually the new Prime. I always feel like he got robbed there.
He was a character that I enjoyed, and like I liked him in the movie, of course. But no, he's not one I think that really resonated with me a lot. I kind of initially saw him as more of like a cheap Optimus Prime clone with some armor on.
I think part of the reason I liked him was because his underlying toy was the Optimus Prime just in white with additional stuff on him.
Yeah, Magnus, he's basically just a white Prime with an armor.
I had, he's another one where I had the toy version that was released in Japan with the red head instead of the blue head.
Both Cyclonus and Magnus were great generals.
Cyclonus, the warrior.
Oh, dude, Cyclonus his design was ridiculously cool. His robot and jet forms.
Cyclonus, he looks great as a jet, though.
They are just the coolest designs. And I loved Hot Rod, in the movie, and then going forward as Rodimus Prime. I just thought he was a really cool character that showed a tremendous amount of character development over his own, kind of story arc.
If you're gonna ride, Dino, ride in style.
So when it comes to like Hot Rod, and especially when he became the leader and manifested into Rodimus Prime, is he on par with Optimus Prime?
He was all right. He was a replacement. He couldn't fill Optimus's shoes.
Like Rodimus Prime, I never liked. Like I still, when I go back and rewatch episodes, I just don't like that character.
He basically had the Nightwing arc. I just really liked his kind of coming of age tale.
I always found Hot Rod really annoying as a character in the cartoon. A kid that just wants to play, he's just annoying.
Younger, underfoot, impulsive, hot-headed.
Some days he's a good leader, other days he's doubting himself and just wants to go back to little Hot Rod.
I probably would have mutinied against him if I was a Transformer.
I think he's as heroic, so the people first. Probably took on a lot of sort of similarities to Optimus Prime.
Not necessarily replaces his master, but he becomes his own man.
He's maybe Luke Skywalker to Optimus Prime's Obi-Wan.
He becomes his own leader, his own, ideas. He's like my Nightwing.
Never a big fan of Rodimus Prime toy. Hot Rod was a cool toy, but Rodimus Prime, I found it very lacklusting as a toy.
I mean, he looks great. Look, whatever your opinion of him, is he on par with Optimus Prime? It goes without saying, he looks awesome.
I will rip open Ultra Magnus and every other Autobot.
Galvatron was interesting, but he did have a little bit more layers to his personality, I thought, than Megatron did. But I didn't like the way he looked.
Oh man, the transformation of Galvatron at the hands of Unicron was it seemed brutal. But it seems like getting everything, stripped away and being rebuilt from scratch when you're, a machine being, seems like it would be torturous. Maybe even something that would drive a Megatron even further into, psychosis.
First, Prime. Then Ultra Magnus. And now, you.
I don't know if I liked how insane he was. Like, he was definitely more of the Joker, and I wanted more of a Lex Luthor.
I don't know if he became more ruthless than when he was Megatron. I feel like Megatron put up with so much from Starscream forever.
Megatron? Is that you?
Here's a hint.
But here, oh man, first thing he does is go back and just disintegrate that guy.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that amazing documentary John put out.
Thanks for those kind words, Tez. Well, we've come full circle from leaders pre-movie to leaders after the movie. And thank you to everyone who watched this video. It's been a arduous task. Many, many months, many, many days of just editing non-stop, 12 to 14 hours a day. So I want to thank you all. I appreciate this so much. And your support goes a long way. Let's hope that we can make many more of these. I'd love to do one on Star Wars, G.I. Joe, Mask, He-Man. I mean, all of them, really, right? Let's do a documentary on all of them. Get to know the fans. See why we love these things. I want to say a special thank you to everyone who helped out with this. And I guess the best way to do that is just roll the credits. So here you go. Everyone who worked on this is right here.
G1 was definitely my favorite Transformers era. At the time, I didn't, of course, know it was called G1 because that was all there was. It was just Transformers.
I think the original G1 cartoon is probably the best still. I mean, you still get Transfix nowadays. That's really good, isn't it? You can go back and watch them.
Big G1 fan, bit of a G1 purist, love the cartoons, love the toys.
There's so much to love, but it's really a toss-up between that very first G1 series or Beast Wars.
I love Transformers. I wouldn't be the person I was without having these wonderful toys as a kid.
I would love to see this continue on and keep going in some direction.
I've never stopped being in love with Transformers on some level.
Hi, I'm Paul Baker. I think the best thing that I loved about the Transformers was the sound effects.
Hi, I'm Matt, and I'm a YouTuber, and I have a toy channel. And my name is Universal Collector, and I love all things toys.
Hey, I'm Rob Clifford. I'm a freelance illustrator. I'm a huge Transformers fan, and this is my grail. Original Blue Swoop from Japan, Diaclone style. Hi.
Hi, I'm Michael G. Munz. Find my fantasy and sci-fi books on Amazon, follow me on Twitter at @TheRightMunz, and check out my first-time reaction videos of cult classic movies right here on YouTube.
I'm Jason Rigden, and I'm the host of Talk to Seattle. You can find the show on basically any podcasting client.
Well, hello there. If you've been listening to me, I am Tez Rowlands. I do Rowlands reviews. I do out-of-the-box Star Wars reviews, soon to be moving into Transformers and retro gaming. You can find me on Rowlands Reviews on YouTube.
I'm Jody, or Gen X Toys Geek, better known in the community, in the toys collecting community on YouTube, on Instagram, and on Twitter. Gen X Toys Geek. Happy toy hunting!